Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, here with a fun-filled, band-endorsed, fan-based podcast, and we got a doozy of a song to talk about today. You know, I was thinking my post would probably get more attention if I did things like, composer looks out window, you won't believe what happens next. And I'm not going to stoop to that level, but what we tend to miss, I think, in this world of attention-grabbing headlines and, judged up posts and things like that are really, they're all focused on the things that are designed to be popular or designed to be, controlling to purchase a product. And I think what we're missing a lot of times are the hidden gems in the world. And while I look at every song on this album, Sweet Freedom, as not a hidden track, not a filler, anything like that. I mean, to me, every track on this album is a star. But this is kind of an album track. The song One Day, which we're going over today, is just a song that appears on the album. It's not one that, as far as I know, was released as a single or promoted, or maybe it was a B-side. But I really feel like this is one of those hidden gems that could easily have just been skipped, if people weren't paying attention. And I don't think that's good. I think that every album or every song on this album really deserves some attention because they're all fantastic. Interestingly, I find that this song is one of the ones I actually go back to in my memory quite a bit. I mean, it's catchy, but it provokes a certain image in my mind, and sometimes an image of things that didn't actually happen to me. But, a lot of us had a place that we hung out as a kid. We hung out with our friends, whether it was maybe a clubhouse or, somebody's backyard or, somebody's porch or their garage or, some field, spot in a field in the woods or a stream or wherever that you went with your group of friends and hung out. And whenever I hear this song, I think about like this place in the forest in Michigan that I never hung out in. But for some reason, this always brings me back to that spot, and I'm not even sure exactly where it is. I remember going to it a few times, but I couldn't even tell you where it was. But it was just this like lush, foresty little area, and we had tons of those all over the place in Michigan, like places that were just never bulldozed, never developed. And I would imagine probably some of those are now, but we're talking the late 70s, early 80s for me in my memory. And this song kind of talks about that. It talks about like this place that they used to go and they used to just talk and hang out. And I really like that. I like songs that paint a picture that will bring me a certain memory or create a certain memory in my mind. And I'm probably, mixing it up with some movie or something else that I saw at some point or other. And, or maybe just, my imagination from what the song is telling me. But it's one of those things that just automatically like just brings you to a certain place. And I love songs that do that. This is certainly one of those for me. I don't know if it is for you or not, but that's my feeling on this one. Now, before we get into the song itself, I got a couple of things for you guys. First of all, a huge thank you and shout out for the $30 donation to my friend, and I hope I'm pronouncing this properly, Elke Bekufner, I believe it's German. And I hope I'm saying that right because I'm really bad at names. We all know that. And I can admit that. But that's very generous of you. Thank you. She's a fantastic artist, a really big fan of the band and of the show. And I appreciate that. That's, in terms of what the donations do, that's like 2.5 months of paying for the hosting of the show. And so that brings you guys, 10, 12 episodes, depending on what weeks they fall on. But yeah, that's very helpful. So thank you very much. And I've really enjoyed our conversations that go back and forth. Also, really interesting, I got an email just a little bit ago, and it's going to be a little confusing, so I'm just going to read it as it was written. But it basically was an announcement for the podcast performance on Apple Podcast, the rankings over the last 30 days. And it mostly, regards Europe here and some other places. So I'm just going to read you as it is. So it kind of goes back and forth because it's done by category, not by country. But I am happy to announce that we are position 1 in the category of music commentary in Finland. Position 1. That's pretty cool. Position 11 in the category of music commentary in Sweden. Position 12 in the music category, or the category of music in Finland. So the first one for Finland was music commentary, and this one is just the category of music. Position number 22 in the category of music commentary in Norway. Position 23, music commentary in Indonesia. 24 in music commentary in France. 24 in music commentary in Turkey, 26 in music commentary in Japan, and position 30 in music commentary in Germany, and position 65 in the category of music commentary in the United Kingdom. That, guys, is huge. And really, that comes down to you. I mean, yes, I provide the podcast. I say, here is an episode. Please feel free to listen. But you guys are listening. You guys are the ones that are making those actual numbers happen. And thank you so much. You know, we just recently hit 10,000 downloads, well on our way to 11,000 already. And I could not be more grateful that you guys are enjoying the show that much, that you keep listening. You know, hopefully as we get further into different albums and different incarnations of the band, you'll still keep listening. Because I know that some people, and I understand this, some people only like certain eras of a band. But as bands transition, their sound changes. Sometimes their lyrical focus changes as they have different singers. Sometimes they change with the times. And so there's all these different things. So a lot of people, you know, I know like this particular era of the band that we're talking about now, which so many have said to me, or I've seen in social media, that this is the classic lineup. But a lot of people feel that the original lineup was the classic lineup. So it really goes back and forth. I know that this era of the band produced some very, very popular albums, some of their best-selling stuff, but there is so much more to enjoy from Uriah Heep, from all incarnations. You know, you may prefer an album, you may prefer to not listen to a particular album, but there's probably at least something on every album that if you're a fan of the band, you're probably going to like. There's something somewhere in there. But, you know, I encourage you to continue listening. Maybe there's a song you forgot about. Maybe there's an album that you didn't really give a chance to because the band had changed or whatever. You know, I found that I've done that with bands where I'm like, different people. It's a different style. Not really into that. And I just kind of, you know, don't really pursue that next album, or maybe, you know, come back to the band after a few years or whatever. Very understandable. In this band, I mean, we're talking a 50-year history. So there's a lot of coming and going from fans with the band. And but I encourage you guys to keep listening. Like I said, there's probably something at least on every album that you'll like, or maybe you'll just find a different appreciation through my set of eyes as I go through each song, or my set of ears, I should say. But very interesting stuff. And thank you guys so much for the plays. I really appreciate it. It means more to me than I could say. You know, if no one was listening, what would be the point of doing it? The thing about a podcast, though, is it's not just about the listens today. It's about somebody who just discovers the podcast today and just started listening to episode 1 or episode 3, where I actually did the first song review. Podcasts are out there, and if you do them right, they'll be out there forever, or at least for decades to come, and for people to enjoy. So it's not just about the listens today. It's about, you know, what the future could hold for the enjoyment of people that connect with the show. So, but for those that have listened already, have been listening, or just discovering the show, thank you guys so much. It means absolute tons to me. But I think I babbled on for enough. And I think that we should get into this wonderful song. Let's check out One Day from Sweet Freedom by Uriah Heep. I could have been a DJ. I love the sound and the atmosphere that this song creates right off the bat. Some great drum fills, just a wonderful wah pedal playing, great sound of the distortion of the guitar, really well balanced with the keyboards, bass is holding it together. I mean, this is just such a great intro to a song. And, of course, I know, and you know, if you've heard the song before, you're about to hear a really good story. But just the musical setup of this is 30 seconds, and the whole song is 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I'm sorry, 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So, you're talking a good chunk of the song is just being taken up by this short intro. But it just sets such a mood, and as I said when I first started this album, just the mood of the album on the whole is just hits so perfectly for me. And it really feels that, it's not very bright in the EQ. There's not a lot of high end to it. So it really just has kind of a bit of a nostalgic feel to it as well. And just brings me right back to riding my bike around the block or roller skating around the block early in the morning in the summertime. And, when I was really just getting into this album and discovering all the amazing things that go on in it and the great songs. But right off the bat, I'm sold.
Didn't I tell ya everything was gonna be alright? I never doubted it was just a matter of time. Though I've traveled across the desert of despair, I knew I'd get there, one day.
Well, first off, Lee Kerslake is really going for it with the crash cymbals on the snare. A lot of times he saves that for a little bit later in the song, but just right out of the gate, he's doing that here behind the vocal. But again, it's mixed so well that it's not distracting. It's almost an after the fact kind of feel to it because it doesn't really just draw your attention away from what's going on. But a great vocal, it really cuts through the mix, whereas the mix of the music seems like everything's got, that tonality I was talking about. The vocals do have a little more of the high-end EQ on it, so they cut through a little bit more than they would if they had that same sort of EQ sheen over it that the rest of the music does. Great little fillers in there. Love those parts on the guitar right after the vocal ends. Really great balance of everything right here. I couldn't be happier.
How times have changed. I've been rearranging everything, but it can't change the love I bring when I get back home to you. I am the same. It's just a game that I chose to play. But remember, I can lose as fast as I want. One day.
So I'm not sure exactly the perspective of the character in the story because it starts out with, and didn't I tell you everything was going to be all right? Which seems to me to lead to the idea that, these people were going through something and now they're past it. And like, look, I told you we'd be fine. But then he goes on to say, I can lose just as fast as I won, which is more present terminology. So I'm not exactly sure the perspective of where it's being told from, unless he's saying, remember when we went through this, or remember when I said this, or this happened. So maybe that's kind of what's going on. But it's interesting because I get that sense of comfort right off the bat, knowing, okay, well, good. They're past, whatever they've been through. They obviously went through some things and they're good now. So I like that feeling, but it's kind of an intriguing vocal when you look at it from that perspective, I think.
I still remember the hole in the wall where we all sat before you said before. The dusty yard and a broken down door where you and me used to share a yawn, but it's gone now.
You know what? I'm going to play that part again because the backing vocals here are just absolutely beautiful. And I think that they deserve a little bit of attention on their own because there's so much going on that you might not have caught everything that they're doing. So I'm going to play that last section and check out the backing vocals. They're absolutely stunning.
I still remember
See what I mean? That's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's not exactly duplicating. It's playing its own sort of melody there. Really, really great stuff. So let's get back to the song.
But didn't I tell ya that everything was gonna be alright? I never doubted it was just a matter of time. Though I traveled across the desert of despair, I knew I'd get there one day. One day I get there one
As a listener of the song, there's a certain element of comfort that I get when that last verse kicks in and he repeats, but didn't I tell you everything was going to be all right? There's such a sense of warmth and relief to me that I've felt since the first time I've heard the song. And I love that I still feel that now after, 100 times I've heard it or whatever it is. Whether it's listening to it on the tape or an album or playing it in my head or whatever, but yeah, I really like that. There's very few songs that I could even think of that have ever given me that feeling, but this one, that's part of what makes it special to me. The memories it triggers, whether they're real or imaginary, and just that element of what, it all worked out. Like we went through some shit, and here we are. It's all good. I don't know what it is. I don't know how that was created. I couldn't tell you the science or the logistics behind that. I can just say, listening to that part, that's what it brings to me, is warmth and comfort and reassurance, and really cool stuff. Great song. It's just so short. No time for a solo. Not really any changes that go on in the song. Nothing dramatic, which is okay. A lot of times it's great to have songs that are just straightforward. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was a great song, and we'll be on to Sweet Freedom come Monday. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I know a lot of you listen to me on the commute to or from work, or maybe like on your morning jog or walk, or, when you're taking the dog out, whatever you're doing. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. And if you're not listening to this in real time, if you're listening to it sometime in the future, whatever day you're listening to it, have a great day. Thanks for joining me, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!